Recently, the bar citizen in Xi'an, China gave rise to some interesting tidbits of information pertaining to the Javelin class destroyer. Regular viewers of the channel will know that this is the ship I am most excited about in Star Citizen, and so I thought I'd share some of what was revealed as well as my thoughts on that info. I'm Forrester, and I'm a bit of a Javelin obsessive since 2014. So much about this ship and how I think it's likely to be used just speaks to me. That said, these updates from Xi'an are a little bit hearsay at time of recording, linked to a Star Citizen live episode which I've only seen translated notes from, and an interview with John Crew and Aaron Roberts which I've at least been able to see. So, as with most things Star Citizen, take this with a generous pinch of salt and not as a definitive promise. That said, let's dive into what's been revealed that's relevant to the wonderful Javelin. So, first of all, it's been said that there is to be no Javelin release in 2026. That's perhaps not surprising, given that the official line has been that the Javelin would be released to the PU a few months after the release of Squadron 42, so even if we get Squadron this year, in a few months, and that could take us to perhaps Fleet Week in 2027. But for those who noticed the entitlement to the Javelin briefly pop in an early PTU build for 4.8, perhaps this might be a little disappointing. Secondly, and this pleasantly surprised me, the Javelin is said to launch with basic modularity when it does arrive in the PU. There could be a choice of modules for cargo or Tier 1 medical beds. The reason I'm pleasantly surprised by this was that I originally assumed that the modularity promised in the design document would be a latter addition to the release, and that we'd just get cargo rooms as placeholders until then. So the potential inclusion of some basic functionality to the modular rooms means that to some extent, crews will be able to customize their experience to lean further into cargo or have more support for more medical respawns and treatment points. One reason that leaning further into cargo might be a good thing is that as of patch 4.8, it's expected that ships in the hangar of capitals will be able to repair, rearm and refuel, potentially all from the cargo grid of the host ship. Whilst the hangar on the Javelin isn't as long as the flight deck on the Idris, so probably doesn't work quite so well for stacking multiple fighters, it is a deep hangar, in lore geared up around supporting a dropship of Marines, and so potentially that hangar will be well placed to support a taller gunship or dropship, with the potential for the crew to respawn aboard the Javelin, whilst also offering hangar facilities to the ship itself. Then there were a couple of general updates that relate to but weren't specific to the Javelin, applying to all capital ships. The first is the ambition to bring Flak Weapons to the game, specifically to zone out smaller fighters from getting too close to capital ships. This has been talked about before, but hearing about it again was refreshing. Clearly, there would need to be some kind of balancing mechanic to this, such as requiring a significant amount of ammunition to keep the flak cannons stocked up and firing, making it situational and expensive. But for a ship like the Javelin, that is probably situational and expensive as it is, that could pair well with the extensive internal cargo stores aboard to make a properly crewed, equipped and stocked Javelin a real fortress to have to deal with. The other update that was general to all capital ships was the goal to introduce functionality to the Hologlobes that sit on the bridge to unlock some kind of fleet and ship command ability. The example given was the commander role in Battlefield games, but the idea would be that the position would be able to coordinate activity across a group of players, potentially set priority targets for gunners aboard the ship to engage, as well as issue move or attack type commands to other party members. This is likely to be particularly exciting to those interested in multi-crew and even fleet gameplay with the ship, and could be relevant to operations like the tactical strike groups and the future fleet instance operations referenced in CitizenCon a couple of years back. As of this month, the Javelin is likely to no longer be the largest warship purchasable by players. That title is likely to go to the new Odin battlecruiser, and so for many larger org fleets, that may well end up being the centerpiece with the flag. But for smaller operations, and even for potentially managing the turrets aboard the ship or torpedo targets, If Hologlobe functionality does come to the Javelin, it will be a welcome addition to the ship. So, another bar citizen later, my excitement for this ship continues to grow. The hopium idea that our crew could be in this at this time next year is certainly an exciting prospect. Incidentally, if you're also a fan of the destroyer, be sure to subscribe to the channel. You can be sure that plenty of videos will follow whenever it does go live. So that about wraps up for this video. Unsurprisingly, the Javelin is a ship I could easily talk about for too long. I'll be interested to read your thoughts in the video comments, but otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.